thanks everybody for coming out here tonight to talk about a really important topic as we look at building peace and increasing safety in our neighborhoods around Louisville, every neighborhood. And I'd like to welcome and thank our visitors from Charleston, South Carolina. Their groundbreaking project, the Illumination Project, has served as a source of inspiration and content for our Synergy project here in Louisville. I'd like for us all to go back. I wish we didn't have to go back and think about this, but we all remember the unspeakable tragedy that took place at the Mother Emanuel Church several years ago. And if you had a feeling bone in your body, your hearts went out for the people of Charleston, and you could only imagine the type of pain and anguish and questioning that took place in Charleston, and that rippled around the country and hopefully woke up the consciousness of many folks that realize how much work our country still has to do to repair so much of the historical damage that has been done by racism, all the different isms that we have. And before then, and I think Papa Smurf will talk to us about this, the Illumination Project was already underway, but it got a much higher profile after the Mother Emanuel massacre that took place down there. So our heart goes out to the people of Charleston, Chief, and citizens back here, and what you all have had to endure, and thank you for making something good maybe coming out of a tragedy by sharing this the way that you have around the country. Nobody should have to go through what the good citizens of Charleston and Emanuel Church went through. So these great citizens are here with us today to tell us more about their experiences and to support us as we continue to launch our efforts to fight out any type of discrimination and hatred in our city, and to increasingly build the legitimacy between police and our community. And public safety is going to be the highest priority of any government that you encounter, whether it be local, state, or federal government. And so oftentimes when we talk about public safety, people look at people in uniforms as if they are the ones that are supposed to be the function of public safety, if you will. And that's usually in a city context, it's the police that people look at. But the truth is that keeping our streets and our communities safer is much bigger than any one entity. It's not just the police officers, it's everybody in the community that we have got to work together to achieve a city where every grandma can sit out on her front porch at any time of the day and feel good about that, and see kids playing in the street and saying, boy, I've got a good life here. And how do we build that in our city is what's important to us. We've got tremendous things happening in our city. We're going through a real renaissance when you think about the jobs, the capital investment, and that's all great. And we're always going to be celebrating the wonderful things that are happening in our city. But one thing that we know is that you cannot really achieve all of the greatness that you want to have if you're not really clear-eyed about the challenges that a community faces. And good leaders, good cities are front and center about putting those challenges out on the table so we can acknowledge them, we can come together, and we can work on them. So like communities all across this great land of ours, Louisville has its own challenges, and our Synergy project is focusing on how can we improve police-community relations so that everybody feels like they are a part of making our city a safer place. And when you talk about police and community legitimacy, one of the things I really appreciate about our police chief right here, he will be the first one to say that if the community doesn't think policing is legitimate, then it's not. And how do we come together to make sure that we have real and honest conversations so that we can get to that place where everybody says we are in this together? So our moment for Synergy and the creation of Synergy, which is part of the Lean Into Louisville project, came after the riots in Charlottesville, Virginia. And you might say, how are they tied together? I'd ask everybody to think about those images that you saw on TV, where you saw members of the Klan and the neo-Nazis walking through the streets of Charlottesville here in the United States of America, espousing hate and division. And my wife and I were watching that and talking to each other and just saying, how is that possible in this country that we love, in the United States? And the ugly truth is there's far too much of that in our society, and it has been repressed for quite some time, but it has been brought back to life, unfortunately, in recent years. So we said we've got to do something in our city to make sure that any vestige of hatred or division, racism, sexism, discrimination against country of origin, whatever it might be, needs to be stamped out in our city. And I believe when people are exposed to people that might be different from them in some way, or they're exposed to education around issues related to history, what have you, people say, we're really not that much different from each other. We are in this together. So that was the whole concept behind launching Lean Into Louisville. And then the Synergy Project has sprung forth from the Lean Into Louisville effort. And so, as I mentioned before, it's all about building safety and police-community relations and seeing how we can do that, what bridges that we have. And we have to be honest, obviously. This is not it doesn't take a brain scientist to figure this out, but there have been examples and instances, both nationally and here locally, that have eroded trust between police and some members of our city. So we know that we've always got to be working to build trust, whether it's a one-on-one relationship you have, it could be your family, it could be at the workplace, but that same concept applies for our city as well. And we all share a common goal. We want to see safer Louisville, decrease crime in Louisville. I don't talk to anybody that disagrees with the function of policing, It's how we police. That's the challenge that we want to do more effectively to pull everybody together in one cohesive unit. And so restoring trust, it takes everybody to do it, right? It's not just a one-way transaction. Police have to work to better connect with residents and continually improve their training, maybe put themselves outside of their comfort zone. Residents have also got to play a role, inviting police in as partners and advocating for work to address what the root causes of crime are. And the police have got to take that first step. They are in a position of authority because of the uniform, because of what their job is. Historically, in our country, especially in 400 years since the arrival of the first slave ship in 1619, authority has not treated our friends in the African American community in an equitable manner. And so we have to recognize that when it comes to repairing relationships like this and building trust in our community. So the Synergy team has been at work for the past 6 months with community leaders, educational partners, LMPD, and other government employees have been working to create action sessions to really get this process going. And this is really where the rubber meets the road, during these action sessions when you're having one-on-one engagement where residents and police talk about issues that they might have, that they haven't had a forum to do that before, and then brainstorm actions that could improve relationships to build on trust and legitimacy. And it's not just about what police can do differently or what residents need to do. It's about what each one of us does each and every day and with each one of our interactions we have, and then what we do together to work toward a safer community. So I really want to ask our citizens here to help us in this process. It takes all of us to make the community safer. It is easy for people to stay home and be critical to most anything, but let's say you're critical about the police or you're critical about people that are critical about the police. We need you. We need you to come out and be part of our Synergy project so that your voice is at the table so we can work to dismantle any obstacles that are getting in our way to having a safer city. So please think about this yourself. Also think about a friend, a family member that you can bring along to these conversations, these action sessions that we have in our community. And we'll hear more about that in a second, but we need as many voices as possible at the table. So I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. Thank you for your honesty, your compassion, your time. This is an important step in the process of creating a city of peace and safety for all of us. We all deserve that, and it's all of our job as citizens to contribute to that. I want to now turn it over to Chief Conrad, and I want to applaud the Chief's leadership. The chief has a strong ethical and moral core. A weaker police chief, a weaker police department would deny that there's any issues between the police and the community. A strong police chief and a strong police force, which we have seen throughout this whole process and many years before, says, absolutely, we get it. We want a safer community, so we're going to expose our vulnerabilities to the community as they expose theirs, so we can work together toward a safer Louisville. So I want to thank Chief Conrad for the extraordinary leadership that he and his team have shown throughout this, working with Kelly Watson, our Chief Equity Officer, who's running the whole Lean Into Louisville initiative, and Chandra Irving, who has been a great leader for us from Spalding University and great citizen as well. And she was our bridge between Louisville and Charleston, South Carolina. So a lot of folks have come together to make this happen. So we're going to have a very productive and exciting night, I'm sure. With that, please welcome Chief Steve Conrad.
Mayor, thank you. Mayor, thank you. And I am really excited to be here. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm looking forward not only to getting to know everyone, but to have the conversations that we hope to have during the panel later this evening. What we're really here to do is to officially kick off the public portion of the Synergy Project. I heard about the work that had been done in Charleston through the Illumination Project, and I will tell you that I'm always open to new ideas, ways that we can work better with citizens in our community, especially in some of the neighborhoods where, quite frankly, there are trust issues between the residents there and the police officers that serve that community. So that's when we began looking at trying to launch some sort of similar initiative here in Louisville. Early in the process, my command staff and I had the opportunity to meet with Chandra, who is behind me. And Chandra introduced the command staff to polarity thinking, which is really at the heart of the way that this Synergy Project works. And Chandra did a great job, but I am not so sure. At first, I truly understood what was being asked. It was challenging, but I will tell you that the first time that I had the opportunity to sit down with 7 other citizens at our first action session, which is essentially a guided conversation where we have an opportunity to hear each other, talk to one another, that I found the true potential of what this project can do in terms of driving change. And I think what was so exciting about it was the fact that we heard each other, we listened to one another, and we were there for the purpose of making our community a better, safer place. We'll be hosting these action sessions over the next 3 months all over our community. People will have the opportunity to have the exact same experience that I did in terms of that give and take between the police and the community that are there, listening to each other, learning from each other. And I will tell you, it is at these tables where citizens of all ages from all neighborhoods in our community will have the opportunity to sit down with police officers and honestly work together to find solutions to the problems that we have here in this community. And the whole goal is to increase the level of trust between our police officers and the community members that we serve. And we really want to drive a sense of legitimacy, which is a word that we throw around quite a bit. And to give you some definition of that, it is the general belief that our officers will do the right thing. They'll do the right thing in terms of maintaining order in our community, in terms of managing conflict, and in terms of working with our citizens to do what we can together to solve community problems. You know, the ideas that have been coming in from the action sessions that we've had already have been great. I am looking forward to the next 3 months and the sessions that are coming in the near future. And what we're hoping to do with all of this is to pull together a strategic plan that we can use to bring our police and our citizens together and truly work to build relationships that will lead to a safer community. For example, one of the things that we were hearing from citizens was that they really don't have the opportunity to get to know officers. I mean, when an officer is called on a call for service, there isn't really an opportunity to learn what that person does when they're not being the police. And, you know, the things that they do in terms of those interactions don't really shine through. And, you know, we've already started on an outreach campaign based on one of these recommendations, which has us sharing more about our officers who, when they aren't being police officers, they're being coaches in our community. They're being musicians. We have some that are even philosophers. And I think the whole point is to show that these men and women behind the badge are more than just police officers. They're people that care about this community. They're people that live in this community, and they're people that want to make our community better. They are citizens here as well. I know that there are many, many great ideas out there. And the mayor said it, and I hope that what he said comes true, that everyone takes advantage of this opportunity to get involved. We want and need your ideas. We want and need your involvement. We want and need your input. If you want to come to a future session, I would direct you to the Louisville Metro Police Department's Facebook. We have all the dates listed there, and if you go to the Metro website and look at Lean into Louisville, you can find those dates there as well. I want to say a special thank you to our guests from Charleston. They really set the stage for changes that happened in Charleston after that tragic shooting, and we hope to spend our time together learning about what is possible and hoping that we can duplicate something like that here. And what I'd like to do now is turn things over to one of the people who was truly a vital part of the illumination project in Charleston, and that is Papa Smurf.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank Louisville and their staff. I've been treated with so much respect and so much honor from people I'd never met in my life. And they say you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Louisville has done that. Second, I would like to say the only reason I'm standing here right now is because of the Illumination Project. I have no problems no more telling people that I'm an ex-felon. I was involved in a lot of things that we're here tonight to try to prevent. But as we know, when you go to the doctor's office, you just don't go in there and put your hands up. He wouldn't know what the heck or where to start. You have to go in there and tell him where it hurts. And when you tell him this, his professionalism kicks in, and now he could better help your recovery. Well, I met a doctor, and his name was Chief Mullins. And I went to him several times, and I talked to him, and I told him where it hurt. Never anticipating we was gonna have that tragic event in Charleston. And I told him I wanted to be a part of change. I was tired of living the life that I lived because I couldn't get a firm explanation for why I was doing what I was doing. And I realized that a lot of people just didn't want to help. As long as their children was A.B. on the roll and their family was doing right, they never cared about that boy down the street. And I just happened to be that boy down the street. But now, in the capacity of a police chief that's willing to invite me in his office and sit me down and talk to me, I felt like I was actually on the road to recovery. And yes, criminology is a sickness, and I was sick. So when he started talking to me, we was talking about different things I could do to help the community. And I felt like my story would be best if I told it to the kids. So I asked him, could you put me in a position where I could tell the kids this story? And in Charleston, it's real hard. You have to be very careful about who you put in front of kids. Sometimes they abuse them. Sometimes they have a pedophile background and issues like that. But he said, I'm going to take a chance with you because I told him where it hurt. He put me in that position. I went into school, and I was able to help children understand why going down the road I'd gone down was a waste of time. Through that, I started having relationships with their parents. They went home and told their parents, oh, there's this guy named Papa Smurf. He don't dress like Chief Mullins. He wears Adidas and sweatshirts, and he's in here talking about changing the lives of our community. So now I've become a spokesman for the police chief. And we all know that if the mayor or the chief was to walk on the block where drugs is going on, all the drug dealers are going to run. And no soon as the man, the chief leave, the drug dealers is coming back. So he had to send somebody in there that could talk to them, that wasn't a part of his staff, that wanted to change, and that was me. And lo and behold, the tragedy happened. 9 people got killed in the church. But a lot of people put an emphasis on that and forgot about the fact that there was a Walter Scott shooting. An officer from the North Charleston Police Department shot and killed a man, and video showed that he did it, and it was murder. So the city was already on the uproar. And here this police chief go, getting ready to get a taste of what all y'all trying to repair. 9 people shot in the church. But because of the Illumination Project and the fact that he established relationships with people like myself, when it was time to explode, like the mayor talked about, in other cities that was having issues, Michael Brown and all the different issues, the KKK walking around the street, we didn't do it. Why? Because he established relationships with us. To where when we came out that night, because we came out to do something, we felt comfortable when he got on public TV. Now I know I heard the mayor say the chief did it. He got on public TV and admitted that what happened in Charleston was a hate crime. And for years, African Americans have always felt that Caucasian officers, Caucasian mayors, and everyone else that had a lighter skin tone than us didn't care. He proved that night on national TV that he cared. Went out on a limb for it. And because of the way he did it, we said we would support him. We didn't riot. We didn't act up. And even to the point to where they did get a conversation with the families, they even said they forgave him. Charleston came to Louisville tonight to make Louisville a safer place like we have done in Charleston so that your children can grow up, live, and work together. And we're going to dispel this idea that it's a black and white issue and look at it from a rich and poor issue, and we're going to live together in harmony, because if Chief Mullins can do it with me, there's a bunch of Papa Smurfs running these streets out here. Give them a chance. Look to them and ask them, what can we do to help you make where you live better? And then they're going to feel responsible. They're going to feel like I'm a part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Papa. I want to know, I don't know if our Charleston visitors know, but this is the high school that Cassius Clay graduated from, Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad would be very happy that we were here talking about building a safer city. That's what he was all about, a great, great humanitarian. I want to thank Jessie Halliday as well from the police department. She and Kelly have been kind of the team with Chandra to be putting all this together. So with that, we're happy to take any questions.
What has the buy-in from police officers been like? Are they?
Let's ask Chief Conrad that.
I will tell you, at first there was apprehension, which was not all that different than the apprehension I felt during the polarity training initially with Chandra. But what we found is we've had members of the department come. Nick Jellick, the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, attended one of the early sessions. What I think they discovered was that it was nice to be able to have conversations with members of our community where we were taking time to listen to one another. The guided conversations, the way it is structured, ensure that happens. I've been to far too many community meetings where people were yelling at me and we'd be yelling back. And I don't think, other than blowing off some steam, that we got much out of those meetings. This is an opportunity to have a real conversation. And while they can be tough conversations, they are civil conversations with a focus of making change. And I think the officers that have had the opportunity to experience the process have come away with a positive feeling about the potential for change. And it has been generally well received so far. And we continue to have officers come to the trainings, in some cases on duty, in some cases off duty, but in every case they've been involved, they've been interactive, and I think some great things have come out of those conversations.
You guys mentioned earlier that regardless of what side of the spectrum you're on, whether you're for police, against police, we want everybody to come out and have those conversations. For some, that may take sitting down once. For others, that may take, dozens of times. So what do you want to say to them who may come out and still not believe it firsthand, or, that continued effort? Because one conversation may not be enough for some people.
And that's what's so great about this. We'll be moving these conversations around the community. The idea is to make them as convenient as we can for people to get involved. People that want to come back time after time after time are welcome to do that. The focus is really on understanding what our concerns are, understanding what we'd like to see change, and then understanding that change requires not just change from the police department's point of view, but change from the community's point of view. And it's going to take all of us working together to make that happen. And I don't know that we've had people that have come to session after session, but anyone is welcome at any session. We'll do our best to have a welcoming environment. We've done them at schools, we've done them at libraries, and we've had not what I would want in terms of turnout. Some have been larger than others, and that's why I'm hoping that with this press conference today, we'll let everyone know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how they can get involved.
You guys are using Charlestown as a great example today. Are there any numbers as to crime rates going down or things, being changed that you can share?
In terms of what happened in Charleston?
Yeah, from the growth of the similar program.
And I may turn to Margaret or Chandra.
Yeah, we don't have any numbers. We can just talk about. I'm Margaret Seidler, and I am a colleague of Shonda Irvin's, who helped us form the Illumination Project in Charleston. I think one thing that what I'd like to say, and what has changed in Charleston that impacts crime, is relationships. And I haven't really heard anybody emphasize that word. That's one of the really major things that changed in our community, was that all of a sudden there were many people in our community that had friends that probably they had little in common with before, or maybe didn't look like them, or maybe weren't from the same socioeconomic group. So it changed relationships. And so what I would say is different in areas that have been high crime is that the police have a much closer relationship to the residents, so that when something does occur, which eventually things will occur, that somebody comes forward. Rather than people pulling back. And I think that's one of the things about public trust, which I know the Synergy Project is really emphasizing, is that the police can't create a safe community by itself. And so that crime can be addressed more effectively when you've got the citizens talking to police and letting them know what they're hearing on the street.
And again, thanks to our great friends in Charleston for coming here with us. Thank you.